For news, sports, and entertainment, you're watching Campus Television, Channel 25, weeknights from 8 to midnight.
The ESPN trucks are here, and it's Big Monday on the CSU campus tonight when Air Force, the defending Mountain West Conference champions, come to Moby Arena. Welcome to this week's edition of Sportsfest. I'm Richard Rodriguez, and this is Zachary Borg.
The national spotlight hits CSU tonight as the Rams host their in-state rivals from Colorado Springs, and CTV's Nick Vukovic is at Moby Arena with a Big Monday report.
Thanks, Zach. And he's right, it's Big Monday. The CSU Rams, fresh off a loss to New Mexico Saturday night, are in dire need of a win against Air Force. But the Falcons are in trouble too, as they lost Saturday to Wyoming as well.
Leading once already, Air Force snuck past the Rams 58-53 on January 8th. And no doubt the Falcons are looking to make a clean sweep. At 5-2 in the conference, the Falcons sit second behind Utah. Now the key for the Air Force Falcons in the first meeting was junior guard Antoine Hood, who scored 24 points. He's currently ranked first on the team in scoring and will serve to be quite a threat for CSU.
You know, CSU's is pretty close to home, so if there's a rival, I think it's there.
Air Force will provide struggle by other means as well. After all, junior forward Nick Welch was Mountain West Conference Player of the Year last season. But the Rams certainly don't plan on rolling over on Big Monday.
We know what kind of game they're going to play, but we're going to try and speed it up a little bit and come out with a win on Monday, on Big Monday.
So again, come tonight over to Moby Arena at 10 o'clock, where the CSU Rams will take on the Air Force Falcons. And if you can't come to the game, you can tune into ESPN. Well, it looks like it's going to shape up to be a great game. Back to you guys. Nick Vukovic, CTV Sports.
Thanks, Nick. Once again, tonight's game tips off at 10 o'clock on ESPN and can be heard over the radio airwaves on AM 600 KCOL. And be sure to tune into Sportsfest next week for complete highlights from tonight's Big Monday game.
It's beginning to look like a long and strenuous season for the CSU men's basketball team. After losing their 17th straight road game last week in Wyoming, the Rams dropped to last place in the conference. On Saturday, they looked to turn things around when New Mexico came to the fort in anticipation of overthrowing the Rams in their home arena. To the highlights. We kick things off in the first half. Injured Rams are beginning to fill up the CSU bench. Jason Smith, the most recent to join with a strained hamstring. New Mexico jumps on the board first when Danny Granger knocks down a long one. Granger, however, was contained fairly well by the CSU defense all night. But then it was Troy DeVries. New Mexico goes up 6 right off the bat. Then they got cold, missing their next 14 shots. But on the other hand, CSU didn't do too much either. And halfway through the first half, finally it's Stuart Creason with the tip in. Finally, there's some more points on the board. Then Sean Morris gets hot, knocking down one of his 5 threes on the night to give CSU a 14-13 lead. Philip Thomason feeds Matt Nelson hammer time. CSU 16-15 on top. Then it's little brother Sean to big brother Michael, and one. M. Morris all up in Granger's grill. New Mexico, however, would answer right back with Alfred Neal. Steven Brewers gets thrown to the ground. Let's take another look. DeVries' attempt is short, and Neal throws it down with force. And at the end of the half, it was Neal from the corner, putting his team up 22-19, and it would stay that way headed into the second half. Zach, take it away.
22-19. Somewhere James Naismith was rolling over in his grave after that half. And New Mexico's Jeff Hart rolls past CSU with the steal and layup. Lobos open up an 8-point lead. Rams need someone to step up, and it's the long-lost Philip Thomason knocking down the jumper. And then coming back on the defensive side and telling Danny Granger, dude, that was weak. Finally, after another putt bucket, Andrew Patterson gets the steal, hands off to Mike Morris, who flips it up to Thomason, sailing on to higher ground. CSU down just 37-35. Lobos need an answer, and it's Ryan Wall with the no-look to Danny Granger, who lays it in, +1. That was Stuart Creason's 5th foul. Stu was done, and New Mexico would go on an 11-3 run and take a 10-point lead. Rams still have some rally monkey in them, though, as Nelly gets the tip in to make it a 6-point game, and then Morris steals the lazy inbound pass and finishes what he started with the money ball. Rams down just 3. Lobos have a chance to ice the game, but David Quixote gets whistled for traveling, giving the Rams a chance to tie it with 1:13 left. CSU gets it inside to Nelson, but Quixote slaps the ball out of his hands, creating a turnover and allowing New Mexico to sink free throws the rest of the way and sink CSU 55-47 to end the Lobos' 22-game conference road losing streak. After tonight's Air Force game, the Rams will ship out to number 15 Utah for a Saturday evening affair with the conference leader. As for this game, Danny Granger was held somewhat in check, but still managed to get a double-double with 11 points and 10 boards. Matt Nelson led all scorers with 16, while Sean Morris added 15. But it just wasn't enough for a snake-bitten CSU team.
We know we're going to turn it around because we work hard every day, and bad luck's going to end soon enough because we come in and work hard every day. We're bound to get rewarded for it.
Balls aren't bouncing our way right now. Hopefully they'll turn it around pretty soon. We can get one against Air Force.
Another conference loss for CSU keeps them in dead last, and they sit there alone this week. BYU beat UNLV on Saturday to move ahead of the Rams. And another shocker on Saturday was when Wyoming beat Air Force. However, Air Force still sits in the second place spot in the conference, with Utah still ahead of them in first. Utah jumped 7 spots in the national rankings this week and now hold the 15th seed in the nation. New Mexico moved into third with their win over CSU on Saturday. And of course, CSU brings up the rear with a 1-6 conference record and a 9-11 overall record.
With 5 more trays against New Mexico, Ram freshman Sean Morris has hit 23 three-pointers this year. It's a great feat for sure, but for this week's Random Ram Fact, we wondered if it was anywhere close to a record. The question is, what is the all-time single-season record at Colorado State for three-point field goals made in a season? The answer is coming up later in the show.
It's been a tough week for the men, and coming up shortly, we'll see if the women could do any better and continue their 3-game winning streak.
But up next, we've got all the latest on the 2005 Colorado State football recruiting class, plus an exclusive look at one of the local standouts making his way to Fort Collins.
And later, the Ramblers return with their thoughts on this past week in Ram athletics. Stay tuned.
This is Campus Television, the best source for local news. Total coverage of CSU sports. And an in-depth look at the entertainment spotlight. And coming soon, watch the realities of campus life be center stage with BYV Live and talk about the week in sports with full court press. All this on Campus Television, weeknights 8 to midnight. The Career Center, located in Ammons Hall on campus, is your best source for job search assistance, offering services ranging from employer information sessions to on-campus interviews. The Career Center will work with you to find the job of your dreams. Helping every level of student, the Career Center has resources including a new cyber cafe, individualized career counseling, resume advice, internship assistance, and interview skill training, all to get you on the right job path. Start finding the job you want right now. Visit the Career Center, located in Ammons Hall on the CSU Oval.
Hello, I'm Dexter Yarbrough, Chief of Police of the Colorado State University Police Department. The CSU PD is a full-service law enforcement agency devoted to the welfare of the university community. We work hand-in-hand with our students, faculty, and staff to promote the educational and occupational experiences of all. For further information, feel free to contact us at 491-6425. And also, we're located here on campus in Green Hall. Thank you.
For all the highs, and the lows, for every victory from around the Mountain West and the rest of the NCAA. Your only source for CSU Ram sports. CTV Sportsfest.
in the know. CTV on iBlueTV.com. Entertainment from students for students.
Hard to believe, but spring is right around the bend, and with it, football. Last Tuesday, Sonny Lubick and the Colorado State football program began preparing for the 2005 season by welcoming in 19 new Rams at National Letter of Intent Signing Day. 9 of the new Rams are Colorado products, and one of the most touted of them knows all too well the tradition of CSU. Colorado State's search for linebacking help sent them 30 minutes south to Greeley West High School, where Spartan standout Jacob Podorf, the son of 2 CSU graduates, was eager to begin his Ram career.
I committed really early. I committed before my season even started, so I was pretty set with that. As long as I can remember, we've just been kind of grew up watching CSU football games and stuff, so I don't know, that kind of rubbed off on me, I guess, a little bit.
As a prep last year, Podorf set the state high school record with 227 tackles in leading the Spartans to their best season in school history and garnering Northern Conference Defensive Player of the Year honors for a second straight season. It's little wonder why his new coaches at CSU are looking forward to seeing Jacob don the green and gold.
He's an athlete. He's a big, tall kid who can run around and play the game, and he is a young man that could play a number of positions at any school he wanted to, from tight end to defensive end to linebacker, and we're excited to have a kid that size that runs that well to play the position of linebacker.
Podorf hopes to come up in the spring to begin working with the team and taking the next step in his football career.
I'm going to go over in the spring and kind of sit in on some of the meetings and stuff, watch the practices, because I got a lot to learn about their defense. It's going to be a huge transition. It'll be tough, but it'll be fun.
So here is a complete look at the in-state recruits that CSU has signed up. At 6'7" and 290 pounds, Cole Pemberton of Mountain Vista High School is by far the biggest of the new Rams, but he won't be lonely with James Moorhead and Brian Abeda joining him up front. The defensive line was restocked too with Durango's Wade Landers and Pomona's Sean McGovern. A name you might recognize is Regis's Clint Kubiak, son of Denver Broncos offensive coordinator Gary Kubiak. Here's hoping Gary will be sitting in on a few practices next fall. CSU gets a quarterback in Grant Stucker, who led Ponderosa to the 5A state title in 2003, and they finally got a defensive dual threat at receiver and defensive back in Kent Denver's Micah Cruz.
The Rams had plenty of success recruiting in-state, and at the same time they did pretty good out-of-state as well. CTV's Brooke Schladewitz has the lowdown on CSU's out-of-state picks.
7 incoming freshmen and 3 transfers from out of state turned in their national letters of intent on Wednesday, making their commitments to the CSU football program official.
I think it's a very, very good class. It's what we needed. And did we get everybody we wanted? No, if I told you that, then we weren't shooting high enough.
One of the recruits on the offensive side of the ball is former UCLA defensive back Nnamdi Ohiri, who will transfer to CSU as a junior in hopes of competing as a running back. Ohiri played 2 seasons at UCLA and was also recruited by Auburn and Pittsburgh.
I believe he'd be an individual that'll come in and jump into the mix and help this football team immediately.
John Radford, a linebacker out of Oklahoma, is also among this year's recruits. He's a transfer student and is currently attending CSU as a junior. Radford will be ready to participate in spring practice this year. During his time in junior college, he was an all-conference performer 2 years in a row. One of this year's most notable recruits is kicker Darrell Chamorro from Chino, California. He decided to come to CSU after a little coaxing from his family. Chamorro is the nephew of women's basketball coach Chris Denker. He made first-team all-conference during both his junior and senior years and kicked a career-long 48-yard field goal in 2004.
I'm just so pleased for our class, our in-state players, and out-of-state players. I think it's a nice blend and a nice mix.
For CTV Sports, this is Brooke Schladewitz.
Other out-of-state recruits include Zach Heim, a defensive back out of California, Adrian Martinez, an all-star two-way performer from San Clemente, California, Cedric Patterson, a 2-time All-State linebacker out of Oklahoma, and Shelly Smith, an all-star offensive lineman from Arizona. Other out-of-staters joining the team as freshmen include Travis Turner, a 320-pound offensive lineman, and Tim Walter out of Manhattan Beach, California. CSU also received a commitment from one more transfer. Joey Rux will join the team from West Los Angeles Junior College and will take on defensive back duties for the Rams.
For the new arrivals, there was an unfortunate departure as Ram junior running back Oldis Yanarice has been forced to leave the team. Oldis suffered a concussion on this play in last year's game against Utah in November. The hit left him unable to play in the last 2 games of the season and was one of a series of concussions that forced doctors to advise him to give up football. A junior last year, Yanarice was second on the team in rushing with a total of 434 yards, good for an average of 4.4 yards a carry. Yanarice also handled kick return duties for the team and averaged 18 yards per return. And it's certainly a tough loss, Richie, but I think considering some of the recruits, and namely the O'Heary kid out of UCLA, I think the Ram running game will be okay minus Oldis.
You're right, and I was really impressed by the depth that they added both on the offensive and defensive lines and at linebacker. Although it's tough to say who's going to be starting come the real season.
Yeah, some of the coaches indicated that some of the junior college kids were probably going to get some time right off the bat, so I bet we'll see a Radford and Rux start or maybe play right away. But you have to remember, too, that last year CSU played 6 true freshmen throughout the season, so we could easily see a Podorf or a Travis Turner break in.
Yeah, and you have to take into account that injuries are always going to be a factor in that, too. Well, we've got plenty more to come, including a historic day for CSU track and Lori Smith.
And we'll look ahead to this Thursday's women's basketball game against BYU. Stay tuned because Sportsfest is coming right back.
iBlueTV.com. The Internet Television Revolution. iBlueTV.com. The Internet Television Revolution.
The Lori Student Center is the place to be. It's the place for taking care of business and the place to buy and sell textbooks. It's the place for staying connected, student organizations, leadership programs, and more, all right here. It's the place to eat. It's the place for entertainment. There's always something happening at the LSC. Movies, art exhibits, and special performances. Check it out online. The Lori Student Center is definitely the place to be.
The verdict regarding the future of the Sigma Pi fraternity house that Samantha Stevens' body was found in was released earlier today.
6 people were arrested in conjunction with this weekend's riots. 3 CSU students were arrested for Friday night's riot on the
This week, wildfires ravaged Larimer County, which caused firefighters to work around the clock to get to this team.
Agent Classifieds, how may I help you?
Place it, find it, buy it, sell it, rent it. All this and more with the Rocky Mountain Collegian Classifieds, as low as $4.50 a day. Call 491-1686, 491-1686.
Riding the crest of a 3-game home winning streak, the Colorado State women's basketball team hit the road last Thursday to take on the Air Force Falcons. Like our men's team, the women have struggled mightily on the road in conference play, losing big earlier this year at BYU and Utah. Unlike the men, though, Air Force isn't a contender for the Mountain West Conference crown, and the Lady Rams were able to break through on the road by knocking off the Lady Falcons 63-42. Lindsey Thomas led all scorers with 16 points, while point guard Vanessa Espinoza chipped in 14.
On Saturday, the women were in Albuquerque trying to extend that 4-game winning streak against the New Mexico Lobos. Unfortunately, they were not as successful as they were a few days earlier in Colorado Springs. They fell hard to the Lobos, losing 75-49. New Mexico went on a 26-point run midway through the first half, allowing only 5 points during that time. Deanna Marsh grabbed a double-double with 14 points and 10 boards, and Julie Briotti chipped in 13 points to lead New Mexico in the victory. CSU's Melissa Dennett led her team with 14 points and 3 blocks, and Sarah Hunter helped out with 11 points and 3 assists.
At the halfway mark of the conference season, the Lady Rams find themselves in good position to contend for the Mountain West Conference title. But they'll certainly have to finish up strong because there is plenty of competition for the league's top spot. At 4-3, CSU and BYU both sit 2 games back of league leaders New Mexico and Utah. Wyoming continues to nip at the Lady Rams' heels, just 1 game back at 3-4. After that, plenty of separation between the haves and have-nots. UNLV continues to struggle and sits near the bottom of the league with San Diego State at 2-5. And finally, it's those Lady Falcons in last place, all by their lonesome, with the loneliest of numbers, 1 for a conference win.
The last time the women's basketball team met up with BYU, the Cougars defeated CSU by 20 points. On Thursday, the Lady Rams host BYU as both teams are tied for 3rd in the Mountain West Conference. BYU is coming off of a 74-48 victory over UNLV, in which they shot 60% for the game. The winner of this game will take control of the 3rd-place position in the conference. Both teams should be fired up for this one and vying for that 3rd-place spot. Game time is set for 7 o'clock at Moby Arena this Thursday as both teams have a 4-3 conference record.
The men's and women's track teams were in Colorado Springs on Saturday at the Air Force Classic, and it would be an historic day for collegiate track and senior Lori Smith. Smith set an American collegiate record in the women's weight throw with a toss of 73 feet and 3/4 inches. Congrats to Lori for this incredible achievement, and look for Sportsfest to have more on Smith in the coming weeks. Lori's record helped lead the Lady Rams to 1st place at the meet, and the men made it a sweep for Ram Track 2, scoring a 154.5 to take 1st place.
Last week, the CSU softball team began their season with the Mustang Roundup tournament in San Luis Obispo, California. The team won 4 of 7 of the games in the tournament, in which they started on Thursday. In the doubleheader on Thursday, the Rams lost to Cal Poly in the first game 2-4, and in the second game, they beat the University of Nevada 4-1. On Friday, CSU won their first game against Sacramento State 4-1 and lost their second game 2-0, again to Cal Poly. On Saturday, CSU came up with another win over Nevada. 2-1 was the final on that one, and in the afternoon they suffered their 3rd loss of the tournament, 2-1 to Arkansas. And finally, on Sunday, the Rams picked up their 4th win of the tournament, beating Arkansas 6-4. CSU doesn't play again until February 18th against Nebraska.
Almost time for us to call it a night, but before we do, we will reveal the answer to life's most important question, the Random Ram Fact.
And the Ramblers will break down both the men's and women's basketball teams when Sportsfest sprints toward the finish line. Stay tuned.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ramblers.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is Tuesday night. Welcome to the Ramblers. I am Travis Huntington.
I'm Tyler Kraus.
I'm Chris Dittmer. A great game this weekend.
Another huge game for the Rams.
Don't forget to tune in to the Ramblers every Tuesday night from 6 to 8 right here on 90.5 KCSU.
One radio, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 0 commercials.
Turn it up! Turn it up!
90.5 KCSU.
90.5.
This is your student-run radio.
It is your student-run radio station.
On your FM dial, run by students, for students. It's 90.5 KCSU.
Students making 11,000 bike trips a day.
bicycle safety is important on the CSU campus. CSU Bike Patrol officers work to maintain safety and regulate bicycle traffic. They need your help. Obey all posted signs. Make sure you have a light on your bike at night. Walk your bike in dismount zones. Yield to pedestrians at all times. By doing these things, you will be maintaining bicycle safety at CSU. For more information, call 491-6425.
This is Campus Television, the best source for local news. Total coverage of CSU sports. And an in-depth look at the entertainment spotlight. And coming soon, watch the realities of campus life. Be center stage with BYV Live and talk about the week in sports with full court press. All this on Campus Television, weeknights 8 to midnight.
Be in the know. CTV on iBlueTV.com. Entertainment from students for students.
So we gave our boys at 90.5 KCSU, Travis Huntington and Tyler Kraus, some time off last week. And look what happened. Our men's basketball team hit rock bottom. I'm sorry, Ramblers, but even though we can't blame the collapse of CSU on you guys, we're going to have to pull your vacation time.
Thanks, Zach, and welcome to the Ramblers right here on CTV Sportsfest. I'm Tyler Kraus.
And I'm Travis Huntington. We get you started first off with CSU basketball. The Colorado State men at home against New Mexico on Saturday seem to have a few things going for them, but right before halftime, the Lobos take the lead and they never look back.
Well, and you have to look at Danny Granger when you look at the Lobos team like that. Really tough team to play, and usually CSU is a lot different basketball team when they play at home. They do a lot better. But they just didn't seem to have it in the second half, which seems to be, tale of two halves seems to be the theme for this year.
And one of the things I think has to concern you about this game is that if New Mexico is going to beat you, they're going to do it with Danny Granger. I thought the Rams would lose this game, but for different reasons. They actually did a great job defensively on Danny Granger. He didn't take over this game the way he usually does. And when you can keep him in check, you ought to beat the Lobos. The Rams could not do that.
Well, and the Rams still playing with a lot of young players and not able to really just step it up and play a team game, which they're going to have to do for the rest of the year if they want to make any sort of run and get any kind of confidence out of what they've got left in this season.
And their next shot tonight against Air Force on Big Monday, ESPN, you get a national television audience. It's your chance to try to turn this thing around. Whether they do that or not, we'll get to that more in a minute. But over to the women's side, they get the win against Air Force. They do it in style the way you probably expected they could. Then on Saturday at Albuquerque, it all comes off the tracks.
Well, and you had to think eventually that CSU was going to have a lot of troubles down the pit in New Mexico because that's a tough place to play. I don't care what sport, I don't care what team. But they just got dismantled. I mean, there's nothing pretty about that game at all. They got their lunch ate.
And I think the thing about it is that it was so interesting. You have to start strong when you play in front of a crowd like you have at the pit. And they did that. They come out, it's 11-11, they're looking fine, and then they just completely fell apart. And the Lobos walked all over them, and I think that's the thing that's got to concern you is the fact that they didn't come out with fire, they didn't play hard throughout the course of the game. Just, let's pack it in and we're done and let's go home. And I didn't like that.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and move on to the recruitment section. Football just got their new list of recruits, and a lot of the trends that this team has going, they went really heavy on the linemen this year and really stuck with the homegrown. A lot of Colorado players coming in on the signing list.
Well, that's one of the things that I loved the most about this is that if you can harness some of the talent that you have right here at home in Colorado, that's something that's really going to just increase year after year after year. And if you can have success doing that, more and more people from right here at home in Colorado are going to want to come to Fort Collins instead of going to Boulder or going to some other Big 12, Pac-10, whatever it is, they're going to want to come to Colorado State.
Well, and going big on the linemen makes you have to wonder a little bit about, this team's worry about the running game and the fact that they've had the running backs and have not had the running game for the past couple seasons. Thinking maybe that's why they start to hit the linemen a little bit heavier.
And something Coach Lubick talked about is the fact that this team, they want to get back to the basics, and those linemen are the foundation of your team on both sides of the ball. If you can build up a nice big base with a lot of guys right there at home in your base, then that's going to pave the way, if you will, for success down the road.
And also, too, key transfers coming in. UCLA transfer coming in. We'll be switching from defensive back where he played at UCLA to running back, and then also JUCO transfer linebacker to try and help out that thin linebacking core that was a little banged up last season.
Yeah, you got John Radford transferring over to Colorado State. You got Jake Podorf as one of the new signees, a freshman coming in from Greeley, and a few really talented guys. And, this is a class for Colorado State. They're not rated the highest, and they don't have a bunch of 3-4 star kind of guys, but the coaches seem to be excited about them, and it could turn out to be a good situation. But the thing is, with recruiting, you never know until a few years down the road. And then we're going to take it home here really fast. Tonight on Big Monday, do the Rams win?
I'm going to say yes. I think that they played tough with New Mexico. It's got to be a little bit of a heartbreak for that team. And so this is a team that really, kind of has to step up. And Air Force beat them already once this year. And you would got to think that they've got to be hungry for this game.
Well, they're in last place right now in the Mountain West. They're at home, national television audience. It's your last chance to try to get something going in the first half. I think the Rams win as well.
All right, that's going to do it for us here on CTV Sportsfest. The Ramblers, Travis and Tyler. We'll catch you next week.
Thanks, guys. And be sure to tune in to FM 90.5 KCSU every Tuesday night from 6 to 8 to get the full Ramblers experience.
You've waited patiently all night for this part of the show, and we will not disappoint. It is time for this week's Random Ran Fact. The question was, what is Colorado State's single-season record for three-point field goals made? And the answer is 90 by Andy Burley in 2003, so I guess Sean Morris is 23, won't quite do the trick. That's going to do it for tonight's edition of Sportsfest. Be sure to tune into CTV every weeknight from 8 to midnight for all of your news, sports, and entertainment.
And be sure to tune in this Wednesday night from 8 to midnight for the premiere of Full Court Press, the show that puts the pressure on CSU athletics with Doug Starkey and other members of student media sharing their opinions on the green and gold. For Richie Rodriguez, I'm Zach Borg. Have a good night.
For news, sports, and entertainment, you're watching Campus Television, Channel 25, weeknights from 8 to midnight.